It's good to see everyone. I do apologize for the brief delay. We had to get some things established first. But we are going to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order on today, August 19, 2025. Miss Hammond, would you like to call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Bailey?
Present.
Mr. Brennan?
Present.
Ms. Herbert?
Present. I've known Miss Erica for a long time. I am going to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 3rd, 2024 and May 13th, 2025, and to defer June 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. And Madam Clerk, we'll put the June 3rd on the next agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And then next, we are excited to have Mr. Barry Hall, Interim Chief Executive Officer for Columbia Housing. And so I invited Mr. Hall because the city is doing some work in Belmont on Randall Street. And you all are also doing some work. And so in my opinion, we're working together and collaborating and targeting the same areas. That's what we're going to say. And so I just wanted to get an idea, if you could let us know what's going on with the Dora Randall project. And for our folks, Belmont, the Belmont project, the new Randall Park, this project, it's not even a mile away.
Yeah, it's about a mile away.
About a mile away. So, and always looking at when we're putting resources in, if you can centralize a lot of resources in one place, you get a bigger impact quicker. And, we can show folks the results of the investment. So I'm excited about what y'all are doing over there.
Okay. If the committee doesn't mind, you mind if I just stand at the podium?
Whatever makes you more
Yeah, I'm more
comfortable.
comfortable with that. So, I've given everyone a handout of, and it's just a part of what we're doing, what we call our Vision 2030 plan over at Columbia Housing. And so I want to share what we are doing with Latimer Manor and Dora Randall, which is timely because we just got the approval from HUD to go ahead and the notice to proceed on those two properties. And so those two properties for us kind of tie together. So
And I'm
I'm
glad you're doing that because I got questions about it the
Okay.
other day.
and so I'm going to talk about the two properties pretty much in tandem together because they do tie in together. And so I gave you a short presentation here on what we are doing. And so this is part of our Vision 2030 plan. And you may have heard about Columbia Housing talk about this plan at one time or another, or you can go out to our website and you can find it there. This is the strategic framework for our repositioning plan. Our goal is to reposition our public housing from public housing to the new platform, which is much more stable. It's not new, but more stable platform of Section 8, usually called Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher. And that would be done underneath project-based vouchers. Project-based vouchers or something that stay with the actual unit. Now, vouchers that individuals get and tenant-based vouchers, they can take that voucher from us. They can go out on the open market and they can find a landlord that's willing to work with them. And based on that voucher, we'll pay anywhere from 30 to 40% of the rent. And for the landlord, and well, the tenant will pay 30 or 40%, and then we'll pay the additional amount. And so before we proceed, I want to share a few terms, if you turn to useful terms that we can use. Of course, HUD, everyone may be familiar with that, PHA, and you will find these terms within the short presentation that I do have here. Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Can we go back to what is Public Housing Authority?
Public Housing Authority is what everyone is considered like Columbia Housing. There's over 3,300 of them in the nation.
It's all of the public.
All over the nation, and they're all considered public housing authorities. Many of them are making the transition from public housing authorities more so to what they call affordable housing. So we are expanding what we do. Of course, we do public housing, and public housing is we have properties, and those properties, individuals, they get on the wait list. And once they're on the wait list, and then they're able to eventually be housed, they are paying 30% of their income towards housing, and the housing subsidy program pays the other 70%. And that's what public housing does traditionally. But public housing is changing in the fact that we are moving more so into affordable housing. What we are doing here with the Vision 2030, we're looking at new platforms. We're doing things like low-income housing tax credit, and that's a way to be able to do capital improvement that needs to be done on our properties, and to expand housing for different individuals. Here, if you look, we also have tenant-based vouchers. And as I mentioned earlier, that is assistance that goes actually to the tenant, and they're able to use that voucher on the open market. Project-based vouchers is what we are converting to as part of our transition plan. And that is where it's a Section 8 platform, but it's actually with the unit or the project. RAD is the tool that HUD created back in 2012 to convert many of the public housing, formerly public housing properties that we had. And the reason for that being the fact that as a public housing, there's a deed of trust. And based on that deed of trust, we're not able to go out and on the open market and be able to put debt or equity or borrow equity to make the improvements that need to be made for public housing units. And so they came up with this particular tool called RAD, Rental Assistance Demonstration, that allowed us to have the deed of trust and go out on the private market and private partnerships and create ways to be able to do capital improvement. Now, the reason why we got to do capital improvement, HUD has a program called the Capital Fund Program, and that's the money that they give to public housing to be able to do capital improvements. The really large things that need to be done to make sure that the properties and the units are maintained at the level that they expect them to be, safe, sanitary, and secure. But over time, the system was collapsing underneath its weight. I think the last number said there is over, throughout all 3,000 public housing, there's over $90 million of capital improvements that need to be done. And there's just not enough money in the program to be able to see fit. So they came up with this idea of RAD, so we could. And so I don't want to share the entire program with you because I was asked to take a look at Door Randall, Latimer Manor. And so, but I do want to share what we have already completed, and you may already be familiar with this. If you look at converted properties, these are the properties that we have converted. Of course, the Oaks at Santa Ana Park, that's 285 units. There are 190 family units, and there are 90 senior units, and they're located off Forest Drive. It's the former Gonzalez Gardens. And we achieved we completed it and achieved full occupancy last year, December of last year. And then a little further up on Two Notch and Carter Street, we have the Haven at Palmer Point.
I'm sorry, just so full occupancy would be like 200, is that 280 total units?
285.
285,
Yes.
okay. Oh, yeah, it says 285.
No problem. A little further up, we have Haven at Palmer Point. We completed that. Also, that's a senior, and Oak Terrace is senior, of course, and Haven is a senior property also. It's a mid-rise located at Carter and Two Notch. It's 90% occupied. There's 150 units there. Those are the two projects that we have completed, and those two projects were $100 million projects for us. Very, very proud of those two.
So, Mr. Hall, one of the questions I'm always getting is, once we demolish something and then the new property is brought back, what offers or opportunities are given to the folks who originally lived in that area or in the apartments that were there before?
That's a very good question because as far as HUD is concerned and Columbia Housing, we have something called the right to return. And so former residents that live there, they do have a right to return to the property if they choose to. But what happens very often, because these projects also include relocation, and so to be able to demolish, we have to relocate the families and the individuals out of the property. We give them tenant protection vouchers. That's another voucher that we give them. And so they're able to take those vouchers and go out, just like if they had a housing choice voucher, and be able to lease up on the open market. And very often, by the time we finish the project, the same individuals don't always return. Now, I think we had for Gonzalez Garden, about 15% that were still interested in returning. Many of the others at that point have already established their lives and their homestead and their schools and their doctors. And so it just wasn't a good idea for them to move, or they chose not to move back, but they always had the right to return if they chose to at that time.
Well, and I just think that that's important to note, that they do have the ability to come back so that we're not forcing people out to live in different areas. But I totally
displacing
get it.
people.
If I've lived somewhere else for 6 years, I may be comfortable where I am as opposed to trying to come back over to that side.
And so once we get to the conversation about Latimer and Doral Randall, you will see HUD underneath the relocation, the Uniform Relocation Act. It is important, URA, and every project that we do, if we have to relocate families, there is a URA that we must follow. And a part of that URA is a guarantee that the original residents have a right to return, and they have preferences underneath our administration plan to return to those properties.
And they can afford to. So that was another question, how will folks afford it? They're still able to use the voucher that they have.
They're able to use the voucher, yes.
I'm sorry for all the questions.
No, I love questions. It makes it more conversational, and we get to the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about. So I will continue. So if you look at the next page where it says ongoing projects, these are projects, and this particular project, Lewis Scott Courts, is located out in Eastover, out in Richland County, actually. That's a substantial rehabilitation. It's completed in 9 phases. We are actually in phase 7. We started this over a year ago, and we went down to the studs. We did a total rehab, and of course also on the site also. We expect to have it completed here by the spring of next year, spring of 2026. And we're really proud of that too. And so we are in 4 phases. We have also have Hammond Village, 78 units that are going through a substantial rehab also. And that's also going down to the studs. We had just recently started that one about 2 months ago. And so we're still in the first phase of that. And that also includes relocation, but it's a phased relocation. We're not doing a total relocation of the property. We're doing it by phases because the property is large enough for us to be able to do a phased relocation.
And I'm sorry, Hammond Village sounds so familiar, but I can't place where it is.
Hammond Village is, and I'm still new, but I can drive there, but I might not be able to give you directions.
Okay,
But
now look at that.
if you go down Farrell Road and then you go down Colonial Drive, you get out towards Hammond Village.
Okay,
You got
thank
it?
you.
Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to see which district it is in.
When y'all do your replacement, is there
Yeah, it's mine.
any thought to where, I mean, I know the open market, but people say, well, majority of people who were in housing units now are somewhere in the Northeast, let's say the Summit previously, or they're on Broad River Road or even towards Harbison. is there any thought about, where folks could go with the vouchers that keeps them in the city so they aren't necessarily displaced from their schools and their doctors and the communities they've historically have been around?
Yeah, whenever we start relocation, even before we start, we go in and we have a relocation specialist. And what that person will do, he'll visit with each one of the families. And he will gather that information, what schools, how many children in the home, what schools they go to, what may be the feeder schools, what doctors they go to, what community or civic organizations they are a part of. And then they get a voucher. Now, here's the thing. When they do get a voucher, very often the individual will have in mind where they want to live with that voucher and they'll go there. So we can't really steer or direct a person where they can go, but we can try to make the transition as easy or simplest as possible by making sure they do maintain or remain in this general area where they have all those support systems and they don't have to go out and try to create new support systems like doctors, like new schools or whatever. But it's totally up, when they get a voucher, it's totally up to the individual where they decide to live. And that is one of the attractions of having the voucher, is housing choice. It's your choice to where you can go and you can find housing that will accept your voucher and be able to set up homestead there.
Well, I just want to add to, in further of that discussion, I think there is a great need within city limits to have properties that will accept the vouchers. Because if we have more of those opportunities in the same areas, then that, because I remember back in my day, trying to find, different places that can be challenging. And you may not get to where you want to go, but I'm always encouraging folks to be great landlords through the Section 8 program so that we have nice homes and living opportunities for folks everywhere.
I agree.
Currently, the Housing Authority partners with quite a few landlords throughout the city, and on a monthly basis, we'll pay out about $4 million. It's about $4 million a month on landlord payments to landlords. And we are always looking and encouraging landlords. In fact, we got workshops coming up for landlords later in September. And it's something else that we are doing now. I'm not sure if it was done previously, but I've taken my team and in the different departments. And these are touch points with each one of the departments. We have capital assets. They are the custodians of this actual Vision 2030 plan, and they're putting this together and they're doing the development. But when it comes to the actual residents, I make sure that my housing choice voucher department, Section 8 department, they are actually doing the briefing. So each one of the individuals who has a voucher now can understand what it is they need to do, how they need to search. And we even try to match them up with landlords because when we do the briefing, we invite landlords to come out and be a part of that and get a chance to talk with some of our residents. And of course, I include my property management team also because they understand the residents. They have a history with them and they understand their needs very well. And of course, we have the relocation specialist as a part of that team also. So we put together a good team to make sure we are protecting the resident as they make these moves and giving them good advice and direction on where they should go. And so moving on deck, these are projects that we're getting started with here in the next month and towards the end of the year. Harbor Cove Homes that we have now renamed. For many of you, you will be familiar with Capitol Heights Bayberry Mews. There are 200 homes there. That is a substantial rehab. And some of the individuals that are now at Latimer and Doral Randall, in fact, 28 households at Doral Randall and 20 households at Latimer Manor will have a transfer of assistance. In other words, they will transfer their assistance from those two properties over to the new property, Harbor Cove Homes, formerly Capitol Heights Bayberry Muse. And they will go there, and we're starting with the larger families that we have at that time. So we are working with our GC at this time, to focus on the rehabilitation of the larger units, which are going to be the 5-bedroom and then the 4-bedroom, so we can move some of the larger families that we have at Latimer and Door Randall over to that site.
And is that meant to be temporary while the work is being done, or a different opportunity for them to move?
Now, that relocation can be based on the tenant, whatever they choose. It can be temporary relocation, and they can return back to Latimer or Door Randall when they have been totally rehabbed. Now, those two projects are going to be total demolitions. We're going to take them all the way down, and we're going to come back with a much more better use of the property, particularly Latimer Manor, which is a large property. We have a number of ideas that we want to do. We want to also include not only rental units, but about 50 home ownership there too. That is part of our plan.
Love it. That was me singing, love it. Go ahead.
And not quite the same with Door Randall, but we are doing eventually a plan for a total demolition and new construction there. But both of those projects at this point will not happen until late 2027 or early 2028. So it will be some time. So those could be temporary moves, or if they choose, when they go to Harbor Cove Homes, they could be permanent, or they can take their voucher and they can try it on the open market. So far, we've had one meeting last Friday, with the residents there at Latimer and Door Randall, and we've had, out of 33, we had 26 that accepted the voucher. We have some that have decided that they're going to move temporarily and come back when the project is complete. We have some seniors that we are taking out on the tour. We're going to take them over to Haven. The new construction that we recently completed, and we're going to offer them a preference to be able to lease up there at Haven, at Palmer Point. And we're going to meet again this Friday and do the same with the next group of residents. There's a total of 89 residents remaining on Latimer, and there's a total of 52 at Door Randall.
So how much time do they have? I think that might have been the question I got at last week. How much time will they have to make the transition and move to a place once they get the voucher? Or
Okay,
has
so-
that process already started?
90 days. I'm going to say 90 days, all right? Because that's underneath the URA, Uniform Relocation Act. That's how much time we have to give them. But of course, if they are unable to be able to find housing with their voucher within 90 days, we'll make sure they continue to be housed. If they continue to be housed at the current property they're at, or we will move them to another temporary unit at one of our other public housing properties that hasn't converted at this time. And so they will continue to be housed, but underneath the URA, we have to give them we have to give them a 90-day notice. But of course, we would give them more than 90 days to be able to make the transition.
And they have known, at least I have known about the changes with Latimer Manor. I'm assuming the tenants have known that this was coming up as well.
Yeah, we have been talking about doing this work at Latimer for a couple of years now. Even before I got here. Of course, I've only been here for 2 years now. And when I first arrived, I was the chief operating officer, and now I'm the interim. And even at this time, we were having meetings with the residents, making them aware of the changes. And they ask property management almost every day, when is it happening? When does it happen? We finally got the okay, which was a long process from HUD, to be able to do the early relocation so we could get started. And so now we have a timeline to where we plan to have the entire properties, both of them, well, the 28 at Door Randall, There will still be some at Door Randall, but Latimer, we expect to have that entire property vacated by the end of the year. And then at the beginning of next year, we'll start with the environmentals that need to be done before we can start with the actual demolition. Demolition date of that property, we expect to be done about July of August, about this time next year.
Well, I'm just going to give you a heads up that I'm going to give your information to the group of people who were asking me questions about Latimer Manor so that they can get this great detailed information. They meet every Friday at Abney Seafood, and I will make that connection so that you can join them. This is great information for them to answer. I was not able to answer those questions.
Oh, absolutely. Let me see. I had mentioned the demolition. And I believe that's it, but I had mentioned that Latimer Manor, and I don't have the artist rendition. I wish I had. It's really, really nice, but I will be honest with you. Based on the challenges that we see coming out of Washington and the way our funding goes, and even if this is something that we established with private partners, and we have quite a few of them, and our funding is stable for all of these projects that we have coming up, we still have to take a look at how we do things at the Housing Authority. So the board and myself are going to do a workshop on our development plan and make sure that this, because it is a 2030 plan, something that was planned about 5 years ago. We're about midway through. We need to make sure that we're still on track. And this is the plan we want to continue to track into 2030. And so that's why I was a little reticent about sharing the entire plan, because there may be some changes, and I don't want to share something that may change based on how this workshop works with the board. And that's going to happen about late September when we have that workshop.
Oh, no, that's very smart, because once you set expectations, it's hard to help people understand change. Yes, Mr. Brennan?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, thank you. Mr. Hall, I just want to ask you a question before you wrapping up here. Partnering with property owners and landlords is very important. A lot of people are looking for housing, quality housing. How do you make sure, and I'm sure that there's some standards in place, that the partnership with these property owners and landlords, that they are providing safe and quality housing for what our residents need?
Absolutely. And so there's a requirement for us to make sure that when we partner with the landlord, that we are providing, even indirectly, safe, affordable housing. And we do that through our HQS inspections. That's right, Housing Quality Standard Inspections, something that is changing. They're going to begin to call it a new protocol, which is Inspire V, but it's still the same thing. We go in and we send out our inspectors. We go in, we look at the household, we make sure it meets certain quality standards. And then if there is initially, and then once they are housed, if there is an issue with the housing, the tenant can reach out to us. And we
Okay.
can schedule an inspection again based on that same protocol to make sure they are meeting those standards. Now, if they are not, then that unit may go into what we call abatement. In other words, we withhold the subsidy, our 30 to 40%, until they bring it up to standards. All right. And if they do not bring it up to standards, then we may just simply cancel that HAP contract with that landlord or that property owner.
Do you find that property owners and landlords do the work when asked?
By and large, you always have some outliers who simply want to just collect rent and not make the upgrades or not make the repairs that need to be made. But very often when we come in and we say, look, we do an HQS inspection and we said these things need to be repaired, or if they're not repaired, then you go into abatement and they make the repairs.
That's great. We appreciate you sticking up for the tenants. Thank you.
And then is there any coverage for the tenants who complain to prevent retaliatory action, like because a lot of folks are scared to complain because they'll lose, they'll get kicked out or anything like that. Do y'all have anything that exists to protect them from getting kicked out?
We do.
Okay.
We have something called the administrative plan. And underneath our administrative plan, which covers everything that we do in our housing choice voucher program and our project-based voucher program, there are standards that we need to meet. And a part of that is understanding that there is something that we call an informal review. We have an in-house omnibusman that we call CH Cares. And whenever a tenant has a complaint with the landlord, we try to intercede and try to mediate between the two. And we have the weight to be able to hold the landlord based on the HQS and the administrative plan responsible for what they must do to be able to deliver safe sanitary housing. And on the other hand, we're also able to hold the tenant responsible for the participant responsible for what they agreed to do as far as their obligations, as far as the program is concerned. So it's two-edged.
Well, no, and I just think that's important, that they can, safely make complaints. And then I was gonna say something along the line of what Mr. Brennan was referring to. But the information that you're sharing about the complaint process, I'm glad to hear, because I think we've had a couple of settings where it was thought that code enforcement would be the way to resolve those issues. And I didn't understand why it had to be the city's obligation when there is a contract and an agreement with housing and the landlord. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, very often, from a tenant standpoint, they may think it's more effective to call out code enforcement and to be able to address some of these issues. But even code enforcement is going to come back to us that they understand it's one of our landlords. And they're going to want us to be involved to see if we can mitigate some of these, because they understand, I believe that we do hold weight and able to withhold subsidy until these repairs are made.
I like that word, withhold subsidies. Now, my last question, you just said something. Oh, how would we know if it is a Section 8 home or property? Is there like a listing somewhere, or is it just hit or miss and we just check and see?
It's probably just hit or miss. There is not a listing that says this is a Section 8 home. Because what we want to do is all of our tenants and our participants, we want them to integrate into the neighborhood, right? But let's real talk though. It seems like neighbors seem to know, and how they know.
No, I will tell you, I always joke with people that my mom had a Section 8 voucher and we lived in Meadow Lakes, which at the time was like high cotton for folks, and no one ever knew.
Well, that's the way we prefer
Yeah.
that they integrate into the neighborhood, because we're talking about housing and opportunity for individuals, and they need both. And so we want them to be a part of the community and be seamless in the fact that they are a part of the community. And they're involved in everything that the community has to offer, the schools, the community events, the civic groups, all of that.
Well, and I guess the last note that I'm taking for myself is that it may be worthwhile for us when we get called by code enforcement to see if the address is under the program, so that we can swiftly give that to the proper people who can really make them act.
Well, I agree, Madam Chairwoman, and I was actually asking legal, do we have those landlords get renter's permits as normal
They
landlords? Yes,
should.
to have that point of contact.
And maybe make
identify.
that note.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if that's a question. Okay. But no, I think that's a good tool. And then, our folks are overwhelmed sometimes. And if, and then they tend to ask 30 days and 60 days, and it's hard to
Yeah,
get the
and with
improvements.
Columbia Housing Authority's portfolio, I mean, we have a good contact for y'all as representatives and landlords my question would be about that partnership with local homeowners, apartment owners, just to be sure that we have proper contact.
This has been very good. Do you have anything to add? Y'all have any other questions? I just one little question, just because I think they're ready to go. We talked about the ability to purchase a home if you're on a Section 8 voucher. I know that you all were looking into it. I don't recall where you are in the process. Are you familiar?
Yeah, we have a homeownership program, and we have a number of former voucher holders, and you can use your voucher for the homeownership program. We have a couple of that were former voucher holders that are now homeowners. They went through a part of our program called Family Self-Sufficiency, and that helps them build equity into a home, into an account, so they can get into a home. It's a broad program and part of our home ownership. Now, something else that we are working on, we have over 300 homes throughout the county in the city, and the most of them are in the county. And a part of that, we are working with HUD to be able to get the Section 32 homeownership program. And we want to rehabilitate many of these homes and offer them up as either lease to purchase program that we're working on. That's the Section 32 program through HUD. And we have applied to that and have not heard back. But of course, with the reduction in staff at HUD, things are progressing much slower than what they had at one time. We're also looking at rehabbing some of those and just selling them on the open market to individuals who may be willing to buy. And we are looking at some that would just be a part of our program. So it's kind of three-pronged. And we're looking at being able to rehabilitate these homes and keep a good price point so it's affordable, about 200,000 or less, right?
To be owner occupied, not to be bought
Yeah,
for investment.
right.
Okay, perfect.
To be leased the purchase, 3-year program. You're in there, and while you're in that 3-year program, you also get financial literacy training. You get homeownership training, understand what it is to be a homeowner and the responsibility of having to maintain the yard, making sure that repairs are being done. So you continue to have the value in your home and create equity in your home as you go along. And so at the end of that 3 years, we are also looking at something that we would call equity bonus, right? A good stewardship program to where as you're in this program, you are building equity in the home or in the program. And at the end of it, you're able to, and if I recall right, and I haven't looked at it recently, I think it's about 24,000 over a 3-year period. But you have to hit every mark. You have to be a tenant that pays on time, maintains a home, and throughout the entire process, we are holding their hand and walking them through the process of what they need to be able to do and get to the end so they can win.
That's fantastic.
I love it. One of my neighborhood folks says because renters don't come with lawnmowers. And when she said it, I was like, that is so true. And so I like the fact that we're not just throwing folks out and letting them figure it out. Is there anything that we can do to help you in that regard? Because what I also tell people, some folks don't understand, why would you let Section 8 recipients purchase a home? The way I see it is if it's a person who's a low income person, I would rather them purchase a home and end those payments as opposed to having to pay and support them for the rest of their life. Because they're not gonna make any more money, in retirement and so forth. So that's always my business case for that.
Well, the individuals that we have purchase homes, like I said, it's an entire program. It's our family self-sufficiency. It's a partnership that we have with Midland Tech. And so we encourage them to enroll in a program, one of their quick jobs programs or one of their tech programs where they can begin to gain skills so they can make more money, right? Increase their income so they can become a homeowner. And so, I mean, it's an entire spectrum of what we're trying to do now. It's in its infancy, really small. And what we need is for HUD to get on board, approve the program, so we can grow it as much as we want to. I mean, we've been sitting on this since the beginning of the year,
Let our support.
and we haven't heard an answer yet.
Let our
If we can do
lobbyists.
if we can look into, if maybe a letter of support or something would be helpful. But whatever we can do, we would love to help with that.
I thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Amen.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, with that, Mr. Hall, thank you so much. See, I thought you didn't have anything to come and talk about, so I'm excited.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
excited.
thank the committee so much for letting me come up and talk about Columbia Housing and what we have going on. We are really
Make sure your
excited.
board knows
Mhm.
that you came and talked to us.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
We are meeting Thursday, so I will let them know.
okay.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, we done, yes, we're adjourned. Thank you.